Let's see. Okay. It's not going on. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another show of Bridging the Gap Between Men and Women. Today, I have a special guest on coming way from across the country, from Maryland. A lady that I had the pleasure of meeting when I was out there doing business. Michelle, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
So my name's Michelle. I am 49 years old, single. Like Ramont said, I'm out here in Maryland. I work as a contracting officer. Ramont and I met last week at it was a karaoke spot. It was a nice little place. I was minding my business. And, he came up and introduced himself to me, told me a little bit about the podcast, and I thought it was, it's interesting. And since then, we've had a couple conversations during the week. Some of them we had to agree to disagree on, but still it was mutual. It was mutual respect. So just kind of want to continue those conversations here.
Okay. Well, today's topic is about dating today. And we all know we've had that experience with dating or attempting to date, however you prefer to classify it. And I don't know if you're a big social media fan, Michelle. So share with us what would be your experience or what has been your experience in dating today.
Honestly, I kind of took myself off of the dating scene for a while because my experiences really have not been that positive in the past. I don't want to say the last date I went on. I went on a date a couple years ago, if you want to call it a date, where I planned on meeting up with this gentleman, but I guess his idea of a date and my idea of a date were two different things. He decided that he just wanted to meet for the first time to talk. And I think there's this thing going on now where men feel like, I'm not going to generalize, I don't want to say all men, but I've seen it on social media where men feel like they don't want to spend any money on a woman during the first date because they don't know if it's going to work out. So we met up, we went to this spot. I came straight from work, hadn't had anything to eat, because he wanted to meet up that afternoon. We met up and we just sat and we talked. I picked up the menu and he kind of looked at me like, what are you doing? But so it was more like a meet and greet more than a date. So to me, that definitely was not a positive experience.
So was that the last date that you been on?
With him, that was the one and only date. I've met other people, we've dated. They were just kind of like, and I haven't met anybody recently that I feel like I would be interested in pursuing a relationship with. So I kind of just pulled back off of the dating scene, and I just kind of decided that for now, at least, I will just, live my life. Make myself happy, find things that I like to do, find things that I find interesting, and, pretty much keep to myself.
So would you agree that most people in the dating pool are influenced strongly by social media?
I think so. I definitely think so. I'm not on any dating sites or anything like that, but I do follow some other podcasts and dating sites on social media, whether it's like singles dating, not singles dating, singles travel, or other single groups on social media. I kind of just sit back and I read and I watch things, and it does seem like a lot of people are influenced by social media. What they see on social media, they try to emulate what they see on social media, which is not reality, obviously. I think things are different now.
The reason I asked that question was because you said that this guy, when you went on this last date, you looked at the menu, and I think the guy took somewhat offense by that. Most men today, when they go out on dates with women, they're gonna pick up the bill. But I think a lot of men are influenced by social media to the extent where when they go on a date, they're not expecting it to actually be a date. It's actually, to create a dialogue, if you will.
Right.
And the woman can't retain the chivalry that women would normally, retain or obtain when they go on dates, because most women today, not all women, but a lot of these younger women that's in the dating pool, that's what they're doing. They're basically just going on dates for the benefits of it. They're not looking for any purpose in the dating, as some men may, and it may be vice versa on the opposite side too. I can't speak for the men because, I'm trying to date a woman, not a man. So, I would have to get your input in that respect, but it works both ways. And what I think is with this dating thing, I think a lot of people, both men and women, have lost the perspective that we truly need each other for various reasons. And it doesn't have to always be about finances. It don't always have to be about sex. There's many more factors that's involved that people have a tendency to overlook. So I think we spoke about this before. And I think that if a woman, and I'm gonna just give you a scenario, if a woman and a man meet like we did, okay, and you have something in common. Hold on, my daughter is trying to come. Get back up there and watch your thing, baby. You have something in common, then you should try to move forward with a purpose. See, but everybody's coming to the table now with all these stipulations. From what I'm hearing, I don't know. Women are expecting men to fit a certain criteria. Men are expecting women to fit a criteria, because I had a lady tell me that when she dates, and the reason she's single, because men don't follow her orders. And I I couldn't even get mad at it. I thought it was kind of funny, because the way she said it, when I got her to elaborate on it more and pick her brain, she basically didn't mean what she said, but yet she's riding on this social media wave that she wants to do what everybody else is doing. So with that being said, it just creates a greater disparity between men and women when you have women like such as yourself, educated, have the world to offer a man, but you get these men that's on the flip side that's acting like these women. They're not looking for that. You know what I'm saying? They're either looking for sex, or from what I hear, or they're looking for women that can provide for them financially. So they're not going into a relationship or the purpose of a relationship for any realistic purpose. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
So how do we combat that? How do we change the dynamics of this dating scene today?
I think first people need to stop trying to emulate what they see on social media, because social media is trash. Whether I don't want to say it's complete trash. I mean, because I've learned a lot from the dating sites from social media, so I can't say that it's complete trash. But I think people need to, like you said, they need to go into it with, they have to go into it with an open mind and not trying to be somebody else or trying to live a life that someone else is living. I see a lot of things on social media, and I'm hoping and praying that a lot of these things are skits, because it can't be real life. These situations where women are going to, men are taking women out and they are disrespecting the men because they don't like the restaurant that they took them to, or they're expecting a certain, they're expecting things that they see other people with on a first date, or when they go out and date, or when they're in relationships. They just need to be real. Just be real. Just take each person for what they are, get to know the person for what they are, and stop wanting something that somebody else has.
Well, I find it kind of odd when it comes. Now, I can only speak from the opposite perspective. These women, from what I'm seeing on social media, and I run into a few, the ones that hit me in my inbox. There's what's the word I'm looking for? This projected image that's going out, particularly about men, older, distinguished men such as myself, where women surf because this is their hustle, this is their goal. They're not career oriented like women like yourself. They don't desire to be in real relationships. So basically, not knowing this, and it's just a form of ignorance, they jump on this social media bandwagon and they just surf the internet for men that they feel can be potential targets. And
Right.
I run into it all the time. And I try to play with their heads because, first of all, I'm not sending you no money, no gift cards, none of that. You know what I'm saying? I never met you. Then I've learned through experience that a lot of these pretense women that's online are men, you know, from other countries. Yeah. So, you know, they take pictures, they create videos, and they keep this collage or this portfolio things, and then they just ship it out to people with all these things. It's just like the Asian women. They have their little hustle. And
the whole catfish situation. Yeah.
It's basically catfishing. They've just modern dated, and it's a hustle now. You know, catfishing, I think when it first started was more of a deceptive because the person that was doing it behind it was embarrassed to reveal who they really were. Okay. And I remember seeing something on TV where they had like a show of people catfishing.
Right.
And I said, man, this is wild. This is crazy because I remember one of the episodes where the woman had to be at least 400 pounds. And she had sent this guy these pictures of this beautiful woman in bathing suits and how she was going to rock his world. And he bought into it.
Right.
And was sending her money. And then something happened for him to contact these people. They went to the house and they exposed her. And I said, well, man, what gets me is that if you want to date, you know, when I first met you in that bar and we talked, it was a genuine connection. And what I mean by that, it was total respect. There was no deception there. It was not you trying to pretend to be something that you wasn't, not me trying to pretend to be something that I wasn't. You know, we talked about things that we agreed on. We talked about things that we didn't agree on. And we kept it cordial and we maintained that. And now it looks like a promising friendship. So what I find oftentimes with a lot of women that I approach, like your friend that was sitting at the table with you.
My neighbor. We're not going to use the word friend. We'll say she was my neighbor.
Okay, so your neighbor. A lot of times when I approach women, they take that as a sign of me trying to come on to them. Even after I clearly announce what my intentions are. You know, like when we were in the bar, some of the younger women in there, you know, they gave me their number and stuff, and I still haven't got a response back from them yet. So I meet these people, and even out here in Vegas, that's so pretentious, they couldn't be real if you dissected them and threw them in a real bucket because they bought into what everybody else in the world is doing. This fallacy thing that, you know, it's okay to be pretentious. It's okay to be fake and phony because the rest of the world or the majority of the world is doing it. And it's an acceptable thing now.
Right.
So when I try to do this show, as I was telling someone today, they were asking me, well, Ramon, what happened to the show? You just kind of let it go. And no, I didn't let the show go. The equipment is still there. But if I invite guests on and they tell me they're going to be on, what can I do if they don't show up? There's nothing I can do. So I find it very difficult for me to sit in front of this camera and talk for an hour. Now, when I acquire the skills and the knowledge where I can show videos and narrate them and do stuff like that, then I will. But for the meantime, I have to go out and search the world, if you will, because I have reached out to women over in Dominican Republic, Germany, Europe, the whole 9 yards. And you're one of the sisters that I've actually met in the last several months that said, okay, Ramon, I'll be a guest on your show, and you actually come on to be a guest. So
Right.
what we need to do is we need to create a dialogue, so maybe you can help me and the people that view this, because a lot of times people don't come on when we go live unless it's late. They come back at a later date and view it, and then they start sending me, inboxing me comments about this and about that. So
Okay.
how do we start at this point between you and I on this show, Bridging the Gap? How do we get the message out to the people that really want to date with a purpose, like yourself, women like yourself, that's, you know, balanced in life, men like myself? How do we get that out there?
That's difficult. I mean, it's a good idea that you yourself, the actual host of the show, was the one out there trying to reach people. However, from a woman's point of view, a lot of times men will come up to you in a bar, or come up to you and come up with any old thing just to get your phone number and try to, talk you into exchanging numbers. And then next thing you know, the whole thing goes south or in a different direction. So, I mean, I don't know. That's difficult. You said that you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like those are all the popular. Maybe you can try actually going into a group that's established, say like one of the dating groups on social media, or the singles groups on, social media, and try to interview people there. Not necessarily interview, but, strike up a conversation with people that are already, in these groups, because clearly they're looking to date with a purpose.
Well, I've tried
Mhm.
that, and what
Okay.
I found in my experience with going into these established groups, that most of the people that's in those groups have interacted with each other for weeks or if not months. Okay. And when you come in, it normally tells you so and so has logged in, has joined the group.
Okay.
These people say hello, and they'll keep their conversations going, and they'll just bypass you. They won't speak, they won't say anything.
Mhm.
So it's almost like you trying to go in a neighborhood that you don't know, and communicate with people that you don't even know their background, their culture. They just overlook you as like you're there, but you have no purpose. They're going to continue their dialogue and keep doing
Mm.
what they're doing.
Okay.
So um, that hasn't been successful for me.
Okay. If I think of anything, I'll let you know, but it's not something I really personally thought of. I mean, this whole podcast thing is just something that, you brought to my attention, or we started talking about just a week ago. So, yeah, I mean, if I think of anything, I'll let you know, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now.
So, in your personal experience, why do you believe that men, and particularly black men, we're going to talk about black men because we're from that descent. What do you think go through black men's mind as they consider interacting or dating with black women, particularly?
What do I think goes through a black man's mind? I can't, I don't know. I can't speak on that. I think that'd be something that you would tell me. I have no
Well,
idea. I honestly don't know.
what I think the question that I'm posing to you is, when you're out
Hmm.
and your intentions is to date or not, and you're approached by black men, the dialogue that's created between you both, do you consider that to be sincere, or do you think they're going through the motions? What has been your experience?
My experience is it always seems sincere for the most part. For the most part, it seems sincere in the beginning. Um, but I also feel like, how they say you send your representative. And that's the issue I have. The issue I have is, like, if somebody can be sincere in the beginning, somebody sends their representative in the beginning, they claim to be this, perfect gentleman, this leader, this, what a woman wants, then all of a sudden that trails off or that fades out. It's like, why can't you be the person that you're pretending to be? If you know that's what a woman wants, why can't you be that person? So initially, yeah, most of the time it does seem sincere, and for whatever reason it fades out. Or it could be just that, after you get to know each other, things are just, it turns out that you are not compatible and things fade out. But initially, they try to make it seem as sincere as possible, you know.
Well, I remember a time when dating was simple.
Yes.
When people liked you for who you were originally, not what
Right.
they wanted to be.
Right.
You see a lot of couples out and about, particularly here in Vegas, but you don't see, or I don't get the impression from these couples, even when I see the grand wedding bands or the diamond rings on their fingers, that they're happy. They don't appear to be happy. I think a lot of people that I see that's in relationships, whether it be marriages or just relationships where people are living together, they're doing it for stability, financial stability. They're not doing it. And I've heard people say that happiness is what you create, not what your partner creates for you.
Right.
And I tend to agree to that in part, and I disagree with it in part. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Because if me and you hypothetically is in a relationship, you still have an obligation. Can you get her, please? Just lost my train of thought. I'm on the air.
You said you still have an obligation to do what?
Being in a committed relationship, yes, it's my responsibility to formulate that mindset where the majority of my happiness comes from my own creation, but having a spouse or girlfriend, fiance, whatever title you want to put on it, I think she would have, or he would have, the responsibility also to input in that happiness. Everything should be on a joint perspective. Everything should be on a partner perspective. And I think when what I'm seeing or witness in the relationships today, these songs that I heard coming up are now coming to fruition because it's no longer 50-50. People don't even believe in 50-50. Actually, I got a show that I want to do about that. But women have these expectations that if a man is going to be in a relationship with me, and this is how they deflect. And I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just generalizing from what I've experienced. They say if a man is going to be the provider, then the man's sole role is to come in and pay all the bills. I think me and you discussed this before. And what I'm saying, what a lot of people are saying is both men and women, when you have gender roles, we both have a role to play. And if your expectation of me to come in and pay all your bills when I have my own bills and we're residing in two different places, that's unrealistic. Unless I'm a millionaire, because now people are jumping in relationships just for the sole benefit of surviving, staying afloat financially. They're not getting in relationships because they love each other, because they have promising futures together. They hope to be together forever. They're getting in relationships for financial reasons. This is what I've seen, so it's 70-30, 80-20, 60-40, whatever you want to classify it as. This is what a lot of people, both men and women, are coming into these arenas and they're expecting. From what I'm hearing from the women, the men are asking the women or requiring the women to do things for them that they should be doing for themselves, or the women are doing the opposite thing. They're requiring men to do things for them, and they're using the means to justify that by saying you're the man. So if you're the man, you're going to be in a relationship, you have to provide.
That the word provide doesn't necessarily mean, it does not mean financial, and when you're talking about if we're together, then that means you have to provide and you have to pay the bills. I don't think finances should come into play until you are actually living together. I'm not going to expect a man to pay my bills. Like, what am I doing with my money? What am I doing? I work. What am I going to do if you leave? I don't understand why someone would expect a man to pay their bills if you're not living together. He's not benefiting from those bills. Like you said, you have your own bills, you have your own place, you have your own responsibilities, on your end. So why would I expect you to pay I don't know. I think some women are just greedy and they try to see what they can get, how far they can push a man and how much they can get from a man. I came from a 50-50 household, but that's a household. My mom paid bills, my dad paid the mortgage. They had their roles, but they also split the bills. My dad went out and worked. He took care of the mortgage, which was a bigger part of the bills. My mom paid the household bills. She took care of us as kids, but it wasn't 50-50 as far as they cut their paycheck in half. They had responsibilities that they split. In that case, if you're living in the same household, I can see, you working together financially. But if you're living in separate households and you're just dating, I wouldn't expect a man to pay my bills. That makes no sense to me.
Well, this is where the problem come in at for me when I hear these things, when I'm surfing the social media networks, and I don't know if a lot of men and women are doing this for attention. I don't know, but it's ignorance at its finest, and it's
Right.
also a lack of maturity. Because if I come to you and approach you and we start talking, say instant that night at the club, and my intentions was to date you, then I know as a mature man moving forward, certain things realistically I have to do. It's not to appease you, but in order to secure a profound and futuristic relationship, there's certain processes that I have to go through. I can't just come in and unrealistically expect you. While I call you, you get on a plane and you fly to my place, we screw, you go back, or whatever my thoughts may be at that time. Okay,
Right.
so for a woman to unrealistically expect a man to come in and do all these things to pay their bills, and okay, and when a man posed the question, so what are you bringing to the table, and it sounds so foolishly when I hear women say I am the table. Okay. because here's the realistic thing. Just like women have declared independence, they pay their own bills, they provide for themselves and their children if they're fortunate enough to have them. Men, on the other hand, are doing laundry, doing dishes, cooking, cleaning, the whole 9 yards. So despite all that, there's still an imbalance, in my opinion. This is my opinion, and we talked about this, because even though men can do it just like women can do what you do, it's still not your role. You're operating outside of your true essence. Because men now today, such as myself, I'm embracing women when they're in the essence of their femininity. Not this part-time thing. You want to be feminine when you go and get made up, but other than that, you got on boxing gloves and combat boots because you're ready to go to war with men every time you come in contact with men. So, it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I love having conversations with women, even though I know the input that I'm getting back from them is BS.
Okay.
They're not realistic, and a lot of the guys that I talk to, some of the shit that come out their mouth don't make sense either. I think the majority of stuff, because they're expecting things like, well, I want a woman, to cook and clean, and she got to do this and she got to do that. Well, what's wrong with your hands? You can't cook, you can't clean. They got recipes all over Google, but it's when people are not in tune with reality these are the outcomes, and these outcomes are so astronomical that it has become the norm, because everybody's, everywhere you go, especially when when you go to the airports and play, people are buried in their phones texting. Nobody's just sitting up observing what's going on around them. So a 1,000 terrorists can walk in the airport right today and sit down, even though they have this policy, if you see someone play something, say something and all this nonsense, people don't care.
Right.
They don't care.
That's right.
So it's almost like if it's on social media, it's a revelation. I've talked to people about subject matters, and they say, well, it's on social media, it has to be true.
Right.
Why? The news media, produce things and all the time.
Right.
And it's only partial truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because their whole thing is to influence you to a certain way of thinking. And it's the same thing when it comes to relationships. I can't speak for other people. I love Black women. I think Black women are the true essence of life. I think, and it's not to say other women are not. Right. I'm just saying from my perspective, you women bring something to a relationship that no other, and I'm not talking about the argumentative things, the debating, the challenging things. It's just when you find a strong Black woman that's got your back, that woman got your back. I've seen it all my life. She will fight for you. She will lie for you. She will do anything necessary to promote that relationship and the benefit of that relationship. Today, women are not like that. They'll sell you out. They'll call the police. They'll set you up. They'll do all the same. And they got guys doing the same thing. I've heard guys with this polygamy thing that, they want their girlfriend or their wives to have sex with other men and women. And I'm saying to myself, how are you thinking? We're not back in the Middle East. You don't have 5, 10 wives. Those cultural traits came about when men were able to afford those many wives. It's hard to afford one woman today, let alone 5 or 6. So
I think these days it's more of a fetish thing than, looking back at what they used to do back in the past. I think it's more of like a kink. It's more of like a fetish, maybe like bragging rights. I don't know.
So what do we do? How do we get back on track?
I think people need to just start meeting people organically. Like the relationships I've had, it wasn't from, there weren't people that I met on social media or met on dating sites. It was either somebody that I used to work with or somebody that came into my job. I met somebody in a grocery store. It's like when you meet people in reality, in real life, instead of meeting people online or keeping your head, like you said, buried in your phone, it's different. I think the relationships turn out different than if you were to meet somebody online, especially, and also with, like, I was on Black People Meet for like a 30-day trial or something, and it was the worst. It was the worst because it was just like, it's a competition. And it's like you're just flooded with messages and you're flooded with game and you're flooded with all of this stuff and you're just weeding it out by like swiping. If people meet in person, you not necessarily meet the real person, not all the time, but you have a better chance of meeting somebody who's true and honest rather than meeting somebody on a dating app or social media.
So you, as a single Black professional woman, what would be the requirements that you would have as far as dating today when it comes to men? Do you date outside your race?
No.
So if you're dating black men with all the stigmas that's attached to Black men in general, what would you expect?
What do you mean? That's kind of a broad question. What do you mean? What would I expect?
In a relationship, characteristic traits would a man have to possess in order to acquire your attention and move forward with a relationship that has purpose?
Number one, I mean, I know it's a generic answer, but honesty. Like, just be honest with me. Don't, there's no reason to lie. There's no reason to make up stories. There's no reason to hide who you are, because eventually it's going to come out. Be honest. Definitely be a leader. Don't just be a leader. You have to know how to lead, because you have some men in their minds, I'm a leader, but you're not going to lead me into a ditch. I'm a smart woman, and I'll follow, but only to a certain point, with the utmost respect. I will. The issue a lot of people have is with the word submission. Women have issues with the word submission. To me, the word submission doesn't mean like bow down and do whatever your man says. Submission means to be able to follow a man who knows how to lead. Allow him to lead. Follow him with respect. You have some men that say that they're leaders. They try to lead, but they don't know what they're doing.
So when you say they don't know what they're doing, give me an example.
So, okay, say for instance, I have a friend, a male friend, and we were talking, and he is the type of person that proclaims to be a leader, smart guy, in some aspects, but we were talking about finances. Say for instance, like one time we were talking about my student loans. He was telling me, why do you even pay your student loans? What's the point? He said, you bought a house. Why do you have to pay your student loans now? Nobody's going to be looking at your credit. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why would I not pay my student loans? Why would I want to ruin my credit? Like, that's not the kind of advice you would give somebody as a leader who knew how to lead. There was something else, I can't remember what else it was, but that he was telling me, and I'm like, that's not good advice. That's not something that you would want. If you were trying to talk to me as a woman that you were trying to date, I'd be like, yeah, no. That's, if you can't give good advice or something that I agree with, I'm not saying that we have to agree on everything, but if you cannot give me advice that makes sense, I'm not going to follow.
So basically what I'm gathering from what you're saying is one of the traits of a leader is to give sound advice. And if a man is not giving sound advice, he's not a leader.
Yes. I mean, it's okay to be wrong. You're not going to be right all the time with what you're offering, but if it just flat out doesn't make sense, and that's not a leader to me. And it also is not something that you say. I can watch how you move. I can watch your lifestyle. I can see, are you successful? Are you good with your finances? How do you spend your money? Do you have bill collectors calling you all the time? Is your car being repossessed? Are you being put out of where you live? I'm not going to follow a person like that. You've got to show that you can be a leader. You don't just tell somebody that you're a leader. You prove it more so in your actions than what you say.
So what I've seen, and maybe you can share your experience, is I see a lot of people getting into relationships and with these guys that, and just because you're educated doesn't make you smart. A lot of people have those onion skin stamps, with a few signatures on them, and they believe that gives them a great advantage in life over a lot of people. But, most of the millionaires today are not even educated.
Right.
So, yeah, that has disproved that belief in traditional system. But men, and I think I had a show on this, men versus males. I think oftentimes that when it comes to relationships or of a relationship, a lot of women, and I'm talking about Black women particularly, because I can't speak about other women outside of Blacks because I don't really interact with them like that. But what I've seen is they go into these relationships knowing that these men are not going to change, that these men don't possess those leadership qualities. These men don't have anything that can be conducive to moving them forward in life as a family. But yet again, they're willing to invest all their time, energy, and what little money they do have into these men or these males.
Right.
So once this thing comes to fruition, whatever it is, or whatever they thought it would be, then here comes the blame game. Okay, the pointing fingers, and then all the animosity and the malicious acts and things like this. And I think oftentimes we could simplify not even getting into that foolishness by just simply saying, okay, if you want to have sex, we're going to have sex, but there's not going to be any attachments.
Right.
But when we start, because I think what I'm seeing, a lot of males are living with women. It's not the other way around. So I understand why women feel the way that they feel. You know, you dudes are bums. You're not men. You don't possess any qualities to lead or to guide a family. But then we have to pose the question: if he's a bum, what are you doing with him?
Right.
So how does that make you look in your family and friend and coworkers' eyes when you created a relationship that you talk about with a man that doesn't do any of the things that you expect him to do as a man?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that all comes from communication. I mean, from the beginning, I think a conversation needs to be had. When you meet somebody, what are your intentions? What are you looking for? What do you want from this? You know, a lot of women, or not women, but people jump into situationships without a conversation saying this is what this is. But when a woman, a lot of times it stems from the woman's side where, oh, we talk every day or we text every day. And then we started sleeping together. Oh, that's my man. That's my man. Well, he never said that. That needs to be a conversation. You know, that needs to be, okay, what are we doing here? What's our situation? Are we together? Are we exclusive? Are we just sleeping together? But you can't just make the assumption that just because you talk every day or he comes to your house or you go to his house, or even if you meet his family, that doesn't mean that you're together unless someone opens their mouth and says, okay, we're together, we're exclusive. You're going to have false expectations about what the future is going to hold. Because he might have other women out there, and then all of a sudden you're saying he's cheating on you. Well, he's not cheating on you because you were never together. It's all about communication. And these days, I think communication is lacking because a lot of communication happens through text. You know, and a lot is lost through text. A lot of context is lost through text.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I've always said that the texting thing should be a bare minimum. I can understand, you know, you being at work and I hit you up and you say, well, I'm at work right now, but I can text. I can't talk on the phone. And then you continue a conversation like that. But I think, in my personal belief, my experience with this texting thing is the majority of people that have phones or whatever way they communicate, because I think you can communicate through text on these tablets too, correct?
I saw the option to set it up when I got my tablet, but I think so, yeah.
So I think, again, my opinion, that a lot of people prefer texting because it gives them a means to hide who they really are. Now, and what I mean by this, I'll go on to explain that. First of all, when you talk about writing or composing any type of literature, there must be a certain type of punctuation and grammar involved. When you got people that say thank you with a T and a Y, if you're not familiar with that, you have no clue. It's like, what are they spelling? Right. So we have created an illogical English system that people have adapted to in order to communicate with each other. And when you find people that's intellectually inclined, not to say that the people that choose to use this are not, but it's hard. It's like speaking two different languages, really.
Right.
You know, and when I text people, I've had people say, well, you're not using the proper punctuation. Well, hold on. I'm doing what everybody else do. I'm not supposed to put no periods, no commas, no space, and do all that stuff. So, hey, you either read this thing or you don't. But I think people that just truly desire texting are not being transparent. That's just my belief, because you can hide behind a text. Now, if I see you on video chat, and this is what I tell all the people, remember I said this to you in the club, if we communicate, it has to be via phone or through video chat or in person. Because that way, if I'm seeing your face as I convey my thoughts to you, I can see your expression. Through texting, there's nothing.
Right.
But letters popping up on the other end of the communication line. So
Right.
I prefer not to do it. And I know oftentimes when me and you text, we kind of lose that gap comes between us, because the communication seems to fall away through the texting. It's no longer profound. It has really no purpose anymore. It's just like you're doing something to say, well, I don't feel like talking, so I'm gonna just shoot you a couple of letters.
Mm-hmm. Or I mean, I know we were texting and it was kind of like a long, last weekend, I think when you were traveling, or when you were getting ready to leave last weekend, we were texting, but I know that I was slow to respond because I was out running errands, and I would stop and I would respond at a red light and, just text as fast, whatever I could before the light changed, or, in the middle of something. So it's like sometimes text can be drawn out and it might seem rude. You might take it as, why is she taking so long to respond? Or, maybe she's trying to come up with, something to say, but in reality, you don't know on my end what I'm doing, and why it's taking so long,
Well, I've always said this, Michelle, that if we start open communication, right, to take out the thought of being rude, or someone even considering the thought that you're being rude, it would easily be simple. I'm driving. Now, we all know that driving and texting is dangerous. Okay. Right. So it's easy for you to say, hey, listen, I'm traveling right now. As soon as I get stationary, I'll hit you back. But what I found, and this is the reason I have a problem with this texting, it's not so much as the late responses, it's the drawn out responses. You're not letting me know what it is you're actually doing. So if I'm not doing anything, I'm sitting here holding my phone, waiting on the next response. And here it is, you're driving, trying to be safe because you don't want to text. And I'm like, I can't see that through the phone.
Right.
So when it's easier to just say, hey, Michelle, I'm driving right now. I don't want to get into an accident. I know we're in depth in the conversation. Give me 30 minutes, please, to get where I'm going, and then I'll hit you back. But I think this is where this analogy ghosting come in at, because people start these in-depth conversations and then disappear for hours, then pop back up. I'm here. You here?
Right.
Okay. So you left me holding my phone in my hand for 3 hours, but now you're here. So
well, I mean, from what I see, like when I'm texting, I don't sit and wait for somebody's response, because I know a lot of times people text because they could be in the middle of something, or they are at somewhere where they can't pick up their phone and speak. So I think, okay, if you text me, I might put my phone down and continue on doing laundry or continue on washing dishes. And when I get a chance to go back to my phone, first of all, let me say this: my phone is always on do not disturb. So somebody might text me and I wouldn't even know until I decide to pick my phone up. And then I say, oh, I got a text, so it might not be, if I see a text, I'll respond right away if I can. But I put my phone on do not disturb because a lot of times I might pick up my phone because I got a notification, and next thing you know, I'm on Instagram scrolling mindlessly for the next 20, 30 minutes. So I intentionally keep my phone on do not disturb. So if somebody else, they might text me and say, oh, why is she taking so long to respond? Or she saw my text and she didn't, left me on red. So It's all about perspective. And you have an iPhone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you have an iPhone. I have an Android. So you don't know if I've seen your messages. I don't know if you've seen my messages. That's just the way the two
Right.
systems don't connect. With iPhone, you can tell that somebody left you on red. But
Of
between
course.
our phones, we wouldn't be able to tell, if you saw my message or not. So that leads to more of like, okay, what's happening, what's going on. I personally would not take offense to somebody taking a long time to respond. If I text you once, if I text you twice, and it's been a day or so and you haven't responded, I'm not texting again. That's just, I'm not texting you again until you respond. I'm not texting you again. I'm not going to get upset, but I'm not going to text you. I'm not texting you again.
So let me ask you this.
Mhm.
You being a single woman, and we know you said your number one thing is honesty and communication. So what would be a deal breaker for you? Say you're, because these are three categories. You have people that say vibe, chemistry. I call it, spiritual connection. So this is my terminology for people meeting and bonding. So what would be a deal breaker for you if you met a guy and that chemistry was there, that vibe was there, that spiritual connection was there? What would be that deal breaker for you when it comes to men?
I think a big thing for me is financial stability. Yeah, I would say financial stability, because that covers a lot of, if we were to meet and we plan on going forward, finances would be a big issue. I'm not the type of person that says, oh, you have to make six figures. You have to make, you have to have this and you have to have that. You need to be financially stable.
So you're not one of the women that want 6 feet tall. You're not looking for the unicorn man.
No. I probably have dated one guy that was 6 foot. I'm 5'9". I would say, like, if I were to say what I wanted as far as height, I would say I want somebody that's my height or taller. I don't wear heels. I have bad knees. That's out of the question. So my height or taller. If you're an inch shorter, I mean, it is what it is. Personality would win in that case. But yeah, I think one of the main things is financial stability, and you have to be financially stable, because, like I said, that covers a lot. If I'm dating somebody, your problems become my problems. I don't want to see you having financial issues, because guess what? I'm going to start trying to help you financially. If you're constantly having financial problems, I can't see myself putting myself into a hole, digging a hole for myself to get you out. And at this age, I mean, I'm almost 50. Come on, you need to have some kind of stability when it comes to your finances. I'm not, like I said, you don't have to make six figures. You don't have to take me out to, on trips and all the stuff that you see on social media. I don't need that. I just need you to be stable. I need you to have a stable place to live. Can't be couch surfing. You can't be constantly being put out of where you live. You can't be constantly getting your car repossessed, having, unpaid tickets like that. That comes with a level of maturity as well.
So you would consider dating a man that doesn't make the amount of money that you make?
Yes, I would.
So if you being the woman that you are, why do you think other women cannot incorporate this thought process that it's not about six figures, it's really about the maturity level, it's about the responsibility? They have to personify this image that a man has to have this, but yet they desire this, but yet they remain single because no man that has that want them.
I don't know. I think they figure that he's going to pop out of the woods somewhere someday. So, they're just keeping themselves for this man that that doesn't exist. I don't want to say he doesn't exist, but this man that has multiple options. Yeah, I don't know. I think some women just need to bring it back to reality. You know, it's yeah, it doesn't matter because, say, for instance, you can make six figures and still not be financially stable. If you make six figures living in California versus six figures living in Maryland, it's totally different. If you make six figures and you have six kids, and you make six figures and you don't have any kids, it's different. So it's just a number. It's something that women have been throwing out there recently, fairly recently, that you want a man that makes six figures. You know, and really, what is six figures? Like I said, it depends on where you live. It depends on what you have. It depends on what you're doing with your money. If you know what to do with your money, you can blow six figures easily. You know, it's just a number. It's just a number that people just keep throwing out there. All of a sudden, they want a man that makes six figures. I mean, so if you could want a man that makes six figures. Say he makes 100,000 a year. Well, what about a man that makes 90,000 a year? Is that any different?
According to census, if it's not six figures, it can be. They're not even considering anything close to six figures. It has to be 6+.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a trend. I think it's very trendy to just say you want a man that makes six figures. You know, and a lot of women don't really even know what that means.
It would be safe to say that if you met a man that was responsible financially, wasn't couch surfing, as you put it, hasn't had his car repoed, you know, you're willing to embrace this guy and pursue a meaningful relationship. Is that correct?
We would get to know each other and see, you know, it's kind of hard to say. You can't have a solid list of what you want. I've seen people come up with lists. He has to have this, that. Everything is fluid. You know, it's a give and take. You can't say that he has to have all of these things on your list. You know, the one thing on my list that I will not go back on, it has to be a Black man. That's the one thing that there's no fluidity, there's no give or take. But other than that, I mean, things are fluid. You never know. You might meet somebody that he doesn't check all the boxes. He might check 5 out of the 10 boxes. Who knows? Some things you can compromise on, some things you can help him with.
So do you believe in 50-50?
I do believe in 50-50. I grew up in a 50-50 household. I do. I definitely believe in 50-50. I don't think the man should have to pay all the bills. I think I empathize with people. I would hate for my husband to be working, busting his butt, working, just to pay all the bills. It's like, what am I doing with my money? You know, I definitely don't have an issue with 50-50.
So the people that's dating today and their unrealistic expectations, you know, about the role that a man play, the expectations that a woman has, the requirements that a woman has, or vice versa, man or woman, because I don't know what the men are doing to the women, other than, you know, being abusive and not being very responsible. But I haven't seen a lot of men, when you talk about social media, that's actually getting on, declaring their independence and saying that a woman has to have a BBL. She has to have these bubble lips that look like they've been in a fist fight, you know, the big, you know, just the whole anatomy change. I don't see a lot of men. I do hear men saying that they're no longer desiring that to wife. They will sex or smash or whatever terminology they're using. But for the most part, men are looking for, and this is seem to be a reoccurring thing. When you put women on a rating scale from 1 to 10, most men, such as myself, and this used to be my ideology too, had to rank from an 8 to a 10. There is no perfect women, so we can exclude 10 or 9. That's just realistically. But trying to find these women that have these physical attributes where they're like trophy women or trophy wives is unrealistic, because these are the women that have formulated these mindsets, that have embraced this ideology that social media has pumped out there, that a man has to have this, this, and that, because they've seen the Kardashians, they've seen all these prominent people marry these men and then just walk away for no apparent reason, but just to get money so they can go out and live that single life again. And the courts have promoted this, they bought into this, and they condone this action. So when it comes to dating, to me, it goes back to what you say in the communication. But when you say communication, there has to be more than just sound. There has to be a created dialogue that's effective, that has meaning, that's understood by both parties, because if it's not, you can say it and don't actually mean it. And I think this is what's happening. People are meeting the representative, and the representative saying one thing, but the person actually has a different perspective about moving forward with that relationship. Right. So a lot of people will die single. That's just a simple reality. A lot of people will remain with this selfish ideology that I'm gonna stay single. I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. I got my own house. I got my own car. I got my own business. I got my own money. And they can name off this checklist. But as I told you before, there's a void in every person's life, both men and women, that money cannot fill, traveling cannot fill, social media cannot fill, sex cannot fill. If you don't have a combined combination, when you try to fill that void, it's just like taking a part to put on a car because you think it'll fit, but it wasn't designed by the manufacturer to fit on that car. So it's the same thing when it comes to relationship. You have to use the desired requirements in order to make that relationship work. It can't be based on your disillusionment of what things are to be, based on your experience or inexperience with life. And I believe that. So me, I don't like laying in this bed every night with just my daughter. You know what I'm saying? My baby. Right. I do it because it's a convenient thing to do at this given time. And I think I can honestly say, not knowing people that go to bed every night single, if they feel the same way, but knowing human beings, I just don't think inherently it's in us to be alone. I don't. I don't care how much stuff you throw in there to preoccupy your time. Yeah, you do it for the convenience of doing it, but for the most part, you still look at that ceiling at night, with whether the light is on or not, and you ask yourself, when or why? Yeah, I'm gonna get up tomorrow and I'm gonna maintain the same routine, of working, doing this and doing that, to try to fill that void. But we always got to come back to that starting point. So, right. I don't know. It's something that I think we need to work on, and we just need to keep promoting. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, people take time for themselves. And that's something that people really need to do, is to take time. If you know that you can't give yourself 100% to a relationship, take time and reflect and figure out why you can't. Take time to get to know yourself. Take time to heal. Some people, it takes some people longer to heal than it takes other people. You know what I mean? You might take a couple years to heal. You're not thinking about, wanting somebody in your bed. You're not thinking about wanting to be with somebody. You're taking the time to get to know yourself. You're taking the time to heal. So that's not necessarily what is on people's mind when they choose to be single, or when they choose to be independent,
Okay, well,
You know,
we'll
yeah.
leave that for another show, but I would like to thank you very
Sure.
much, Michelle, for taking your time out. I know you're very busy, you have a lot of things to do. You know, it was really a pleasure meeting you in person. I hope as we move forward as friends, you know, our friendship, if nothing else, you know, will continue to grow. That respect that we have for each other. Um, and let's try to promote this to get it out there to get people on board, where you know that they want to date, because I think I told you this. I'm trying to get some people together now to create a think tank out here where we can actually create a dating scene that's realistic, you know.
Mm.
So everybody done tried everything from eHarmony to dining and dating cafes, and none of it works. It's all a facade, a fallacy. So
Right.
I would also be honored if you would be a part of that think tank, because at the end of the day, it's all about trying to create happiness. People will be happy if they choose, and they'll be unhappy if they choose. So
True.
with that being said, thank you for being on again.
Yeah.
Thank everyone that tuned in for watching. I'm your host, Ramont Williams, and we're going to conclude another show of Bridging the Gap Between Men and Women. And thank my special guest, Michelle from the East Coast. And hopefully we can get her on again with some more her perspectives from the East side. Okay.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Okay, with that being said, everyone, please be safe out there. Take care. God bless. Until we see you next time, take care. Love you.